Bow, 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 bow. Hey, everybody. Did you like how I just did my own theme song just there? I hope you did. Jay here with a quick interruption. I don't have ads, so I'm going to advertise myself in the middle of this podcast. Why not? This is somewhere north of 300 episodes when you're listening to this. And golly gee, it has been a journey, and I appreciate you coming with me on that journey for this whole time that you've been here. Maybe you've been here from the beginning. Maybe you've been here since like an episode ago. I'm just glad you're here. But I do have to say this. We here at Blockbusting, and there's literally a we. Chorkin, come around. Come around to the other side of the camera so we can see. Look, guys, I got a staff now, all right? I got interns, okay? I got producers. I got stuff to handle here at the space that I record at and elsewhere. And I want to be able to pay these people. And I, unfortunately, do not make the kind of money to pay these people myself. And that's where I hope that you can come in. By supporting the Blockbusting Patreon. Yes, that's right. We've got a Patreon. I haven't plugged it in a bit, but I'm going to start plugging it heavy now, because why not? I want to pay these folks, all right? And you can support the podcast for just as low as $1 a month, all right? $1 a month goes back into the show. I'm not even paying myself. I don't care about paying myself for this podcast. I care about giving a little something back to the people who help me out, because I'm getting a lot of help from people these days. And they deserve a little something for their efforts beyond just my eternal thanks and gratitude, which they're going to get anyway. So you can subscribe for $1 a month. You start getting access to bonus content from me, like I'm posting episodes of my game show Wrong that I'm doing here in Los Angeles that I'm not posting to the public. I'll start posting bonus episodes of me talking about stuff again. What's Good with Jay Light, where I just talk about what I liked that I saw on the television and the internet and stuff these days, because that's how you do for Patreon. We still have the JFlix level, the $5 tier, where you can get access to my full film, television, comedy special library. That's just $5 a month. It's cheaper than pretty much every streaming service out there, except for, I guess, Apple TV is $5 a month. And they have Severance and Ted Lasso, so you really can't go wrong there. And they got Coda. I mean, Coda, what a delight. But you know what I've got? Xanadu. And nobody else has that. Pfft, duh. I've got A Day Without a Mexican, Los Digits' least favorite movie. You listen to that episode, it's a great episode. But you just got to watch the movie, which I have on JFlix for $5 a month. I got a bunch of weird stuff. So go consider, please, subscribing to the Patreon for Blockbusting. The link is in the show notes. Or you can just go type into your little web browser right now, tippity-tap it into patreon.com/blockbusting. Again, that is patreon.com/blockbusting. And your support will go to helping me throw a little cash the way of the fine folks who help make this podcast happen. That's all I'm asking, is you throw me a little something so I can throw them a little something, okay? We're going direct, because, you know, this is like thoughts and prayers with guns. Like, saying thanks is only going to do so much. I want to give them cash, okay? At least buy them a coffee or something. So patreon.com/blockbusting. You can join and support for as little as $1 a month. And that's all there is, folks. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
Let me tell you something. Bustin' makes me feel good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate movies. I'm your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, Jasper Lewis.
Hey, how are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing so great. Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm so happy to have you on the show. Not happy to have to talk about this movie, though. This is a real... It occurred to me... Let me grab my notes.
Yeah.
Because So you wanted to talk about a movie called Nine.
Mm-hmm.
Which, first of all, for anybody who may be confused, because for some reason the studios decided to do this to us.
Yeah.
There were 2 movies in 2009 in the fall that were released called 9.
Yup.
One was the number 9, one was the full spelling of 9.
Oh my God.
I don't know who decided to like play film release chicken with
I
that.
completely forgot that those were released the same year. I knew that they were close together. And I remember being so disappointed by both. Because I had seen the short that the number 9 was based off of, and that was really cool.
Yeah, it won an Oscar, I believe, for best short.
The movie number 9 was good. It wasn't as bad as 9 spelled 9, but it was,
9. This is how you had to figure it out when I was looking up the Wikipedia page. Is 9? There's 9 2009 live action film and 9 2009 animated film, not to be confused. I mean, how could you confuse them? They're very different. 9, the animated film, has much more life in it than 9 live action musical film. A 2009 romantic musical drama directed and produced by Rob Marshall, an adaptation of the 1982 musical of the same name, based on Federico Fellini's semi-autobiographical film 8½.
Yeah, semi-autobiographical is being very nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very generous. This movie, I remember when it came out. We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but when I was in college, my college's theater department put on a production of the musical 9. And I was like, oh, cool. I've seen it. Now I don't need to go see the movie, even though I loved so many of the people who they cast in the movie. I mean, this is like a real murderer's row of great acting talent. Daniel Day-Lewis.
Great acting talent.
Talent.
Keyword is acting here.
Yes. You got Daniel Day-Lewis, Marion Cotillard, Penelope Cruz, Judi Dench, Nicole Kidman, Sophia Loren. You got Fergie and Kate Hudson in there for good measure.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Just to flesh it out.
Yeah.
Why in the world did you watch this movie for the first time?
So I watched this movie on a plane. So I was kind of cornered into watching it anyway. I had wanted to see it when it came out in theaters because I remember the previews and they used a couple of songs. They used the heavy hitters in the movie. They used Be Italian with Fergie and they used Cinema Italiano that was sung by Kate Hudson and was written just for the movie. So I know. And that was the one that everybody liked. And
I walked out of the room when that song came on.
I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Jesus Cristo. I truly, I have not done this in the podcast. I literally walked out of the room when that song came on because I was like, it doesn't fit with any of the rest of the songs.
Musically, it's not similar at all.
The sequence itself is really weird and off-putting.
Yeah. The device that they used to get to the musical numbers in the movie is similar to the same one that they used in Chicago, which is that they're occurring inside the main character's head.
Okay. Because I've never seen Chicago.
Oh, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
For the most part, the device works, except Kate Hudson is not an important enough character, like the character that she plays, not vital to the story nearly enough to justify a musical number from her perspective.
Not at all.
It would be forgivable if it was like a total banger, but then there are these weird like sing-talky parts in the middle of it where rhythmically they don't even work. And I'm just like, how did no producer in the studio be like, hey, let's make this like a couplet, a triplet, like something.
Why is she on the poster?
Because I think at the time Kate Hudson was still like her star power was still a big draw.
I guess. I mean, she was
still doing those romantic comedies and stuff at the time, right?
That's true. I'm looking
They were
up.
really trying to sell this as a romantic movie.
Yeah, and also a holiday movie because even the
my
tagline
God.
to this day is this holiday season. Be Italian.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine going to on Christmas Day
with your
you go with your
family?
entire family and you just watch a lot of scantily clad women gyrating around.
This man who's like having like an existential crisis that is just so meaning nothing, like just meaningless.
Just a horny Italian man just
God.
dealing with the many women who he has wronged over the course of his life. Fun for the whole family.
Fun for the whole family.
Just what everybody wants.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to hear about a prostitute dancing for children on a beach.
Oh my God.
What doesn't scream holiday season about that?
This whole film is just the amount of scale, whenever Guido Contini is thinking of women or thinking of his life and the women that inspired it, whenever we're inside his head, the women are almost always semi-naked.
Yes.
Like they're always in like lingerie and jangles and like, which is like, don't get me wrong, like I love that. It's very pretty to look at. It's very like spectacle.
Yeah,
But
the movie got nominated for costume design for the Oscars.
wonderful costume design.
Wonderful costume design.
But it's just like, oh God, it's just so male gazy, like from his perspective. And just like, there's so much context in the movie that is missing. Like, of course, there are men that exist and tons of men who think of women this way. But like in this movie, like Guido Contini is a big old turd.
Right.
He is a big old turd.
Yep.
And he just is. And people accept that. And they're just like, Guido, we love you, even though you're a big old turd.
Yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason for how he got to be a big old turd. Whereas like in the musical, at least you get a little bit of perspective.
Just a little bit.
Just a tiny bit. The child, this little boy that for whatever reason in the movie is just weaving around.
Yeah.
Inexplicably, child Guido is all over this movie and he contributes nothing.
He just shows up and he's running around, but he keeps having these really important moments.
Yeah.
Like he has the entirety of Be Italian.
Oh my
He's just
God.
there running around.
Be
He shows up at
Italian.
the end.
Be Italian. Let's talk about that for a
Let's
second.
talk about Be Italian.
Be Italian. First, I have such conflicting feelings about Be Italian. Be Italian is an absolute banger of a song, and the way that they recorded it for the film is actually like better than any of the recordings that exist for the stage version.
It's a really nice
It is a
song.
It is well produced. Whenever you're inside inside Guido's head, right, is this giant sound stage.
Yes.
And anything that occurs on the soundstage is like razzle dazzle, like Broadway production. So Be Italian inside Guido's head is Fergie and a chorus of like other sex workers.
Yes.
And they're like, Be Italian. Like they're so good. Choreography, za, za, za. But like it cuts back and forth with this black and white footage of 9-year-old, 10-year-old Guido on the beach with his other little
other
boy
prepubescent friends, yeah.
And they are watching Fergie, who starts out the song. They cut out the entire first part of the song. There's context for this song in the stage show.
Yes.
But in the movie, it just starts out with Fergie and she's starting to strip and it's like this close up of her tits. And she's like, so you little Italian devils, you want to know about love. And the symbolism behind the song is that Saragina fucks these little boys.
Yes.
In the show, she strips.
That right.
Which is problematic in and of itself. But in the movie, especially because it's just like there are so many close-ups of like Fergie's body, like her boobs, her torso, her butt. And then it cuts to close-ups of these boys' faces and you see their big eyes. Their very childlike eyes
Yes.
just getting wider and wider as
It's
like, oh, it's so creepy.
fun for the whole family.
And then you're just like, your brain is pulled in these crazy directions because that's horrifying, right?
Yes.
But then you go back to the fun, stagey part where it's like, we're women and we're dancing. It's
Right.
like, you're just like, oh, it's just my brain's being pulled in these directions it's not meant to go.
So you saw this on a plane.
I did.
And how badly during the watching of this movie on the plane did you feel? Did you feel at any point where you were like, I should just shut this movie off?
Like, here's the thing. I was in a plane. I was trapped. I had had a bad day at the airport. And at that point, it's just like, you know, when you've had just like such a crappy day and you're just like, I think I'm just gonna like ride this like masochistic streak until I pass out.
I'm gonna hate watch. I'm gonna unwind by staying tightly wound, and hopefully that constriction will allow me to spring back later on into full relaxation.
I mean, kind of. I was just like, I was just like so grumpy. Like, you know, like when you're so mad at something, you just want to scribble all over it anyway.
Yeah.
And I was just like sitting there on the plane, and I know you can't see it. Maybe you can see it in the video, but I was just like,
She's doing a very disdainful grimace for those of you who are just on the audio.
yeah.
There's a lot of parts of this movie. So, like I said, I saw this as a musical in college, and I remembered not a ton. I looked it up again on Wikipedia just to refresh myself, because while I was watching the movie, I was like, it feels like there's stuff that's missing. There's a lot of context to not just be Italian, but to like the entirety of the story that was completely chopped out. They got rid of like 2/3 of the songs from the actual musical version. This musical, it won a Tony for Best Musical. It won Best Songs, Best Lyrics.
Lots of pretty music in the stage show. Like the stage show itself works, in my opinion, a little bit more as a song cycle. Like there's no real plot. The plot is Guido's a turd. He's cheating on his wife. And here are the women that are in his life in some sort of way.
Right.
And then at the very end, depending on what version of the stage show, people choose different ways to stage this. Some, they hint that Guido's wife comes back to him. Some are like, no, she took off and she's doing her own
Right.
thing.
I think
that's it
Right.
as far as plot.
if I remember correct, in the version I saw, it's very heavily hinted that Guido is about to commit suicide, and then he at the last minute decides, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So there's still like a glimmer of hope, but it's nothing like the Hollywood ending that we get here, which
He doesn't even get to a point where he would even remotely consider suicide.
No.
Like, I don't even believe he's that reformed at the end.
No,
I
he's
think that
just
he's
sat on a beach.
Yeah, he sat on a beach. So he has his big song where he's like, my wife left me.
Yeah.
And then like all of the other women are like, Guido, we're tired of your shit, which is that Nicole Kidman's whole part is just to be symbolic of people just getting tired of him. And then there's like a little subtitle at the bottom. It's like 3 years later. And he's just sitting, he's chilling with Judi Dench.
He's got a beard now.
Got a beard. And he's like, I think I'm going to make a movie about trying to get my wife back. And he can only make movies about things that he is experiencing in his life that are true to him. So
Right.
you, as a viewer, I guess, you're led to believe that he is going to try to get his wife back. But as a viewer, there is nothing that even remotely insinuates that he is somewhat reformed,
Right.
or has any right to
He's just a sad
go
boy.
to her.
That's
Yeah.
all he's doing.
Exactly. And that's what I hate the most about this movie. It's just like, he is a sad boy. And there's no, like,
But not even a lovable one.
no.
He's not the ending. I have such a huge problem with. I mean, I wrote in all caps, "What is this ending?"
Yes.
Because it doesn't make. It's over so quick. Like literally within the final 10 minutes of the movie, you get him sort of recognizing what he did, but not really expressing any remorse about it.
Yeah.
And then Judi Dench saying, "Hey, listen, if you're gonna be a piece of shit, at least like make good work.
Yeah, hire me.
Hire me, please." And then him making this movie, or at least starting to.
Yeah.
And it just feels like they could have done a better ending, and then they're like, we're running out of money and time to finish. Let's just tie a little bow on this thing and
God.
shove it out to post.
Yeah, they tied a great big bow. They had a parade of every woman in the film, a literal parade.
Yes.
They chose to end the movie. He's making this new movie about trying to get his wife back.
Weird ass curtain call.
With a weird curtain call.
Yeah.
They use a stage device for the movie. It's not in his head
literal
anymore.
stage device.
It's like blending with reality. Like, we don't know if this is real or
Mm-hmm.
if it's in his head. And it's every single woman. It's Nicole Kidman. It's Sophia Loren. Like, even Fergie. Like
Kate Hudson, Fergie.
They all come out of this door and then they strike a pose on this like comprehensive
scaffolding.
maze of staircases.
Yep.
And then the little boy that we talked about earlier, for some reason, he runs in and sits on his older self's lap.
Yep.
And that's just like a weird device because it's not earned. It doesn't.
It's totally unearned. It doesn't. I don't feel like we have really actually gone. The character of Guido Contini has not really gone on a real journey.
No.
He's just. We've seen him do half of a journey.
Yeah.
I rarely want movies to be long.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like this movie needed to be another hour longer at least for it to really work from a storytelling perspective. Because you just have half a story.
Yeah.
He loses everything, and then in the last 10 minutes he seemingly gets enough of it back for the movie to end on a point where people are like, okay, yeah, that's an ending. But it just feels you're so far removed from the actual story of Guido's life.
Yeah.
And him trying to not even necessarily make any changes. He just has to deal with self-imposed tragedy after self-imposed tragedy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in this movie also. Let's talk about the acting people.
The acting people.
Let's talk about there's a lot of really weird choices.
So many weird choices. So A lot of this creative team was responsible for another movie musical that I happen to love, Chicago. Right? So in that process for casting, they got star power, but they also made sure that their star power could sing, right?
Yes.
That was a big part of that process. I feel like for this film, they were like, okay, let's take all of that part of Chicago, like everything that worked, and like we'll just never do it again.
Yeah.
So for this movie, they got so many wonderful actors. Acting wise, this movie is very well acted, but it's my opinion. And I'm like a musical theater person. Like I sing, I've worked professionally. Like if you're going to get people to sing these difficult songs in a public way for money, then they need to be vocalists.
Yes.
Unless the part is like, it's written for somebody like Rex Harrison, who didn't need to actually sing My Fair Lady. Totally separate.
Right.
But there are so many moments in this, so many notes where I'm just like, they're getting to the notes, but they're not hitting the notes. And there's a difference between getting to a note and just not hitting it. The only person in this movie that is a singer is Fergie. And her number is it is like just, it's
on a completely
completely
plane.
different level. And Fergie's like a show, like people like, they love to make fun of Fergie, but like Fergie is, if you hear her sing, like technically like, oh, she's beautiful. She's expressive. Like
The only problem with Fergie is that she was in Black Eyed Peas.
She was in Black Eyed
That's the only
Peas.
problem that has with Fergie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But still.
But she was the best part of a lot of Black Eyed Peas songs too.
Yeah.
And of 9.
Yeah, and of 9. I guess like second would be Kate Hudson because she sang in a rock band, but like Kate Hudson's number was just not my favorite.
Cinema Italiano.
And like, yeah, we've already talked about that. For some reason, that was the single. I was like, Be Italian is the single.
Weird.
Y'all. Like,
we also have Judi Dench, who her character is French, but she only sings in a French accent.
That one number.
That one, that's it.
And I was just like, you guys, like, if you were going to write more songs for this movie, give Judi Dench another song. Her character is one of the most interesting characters in the movie. Judi Dench is also a stage performer. That song, you don't need to be able to hit like crazy high notes to be able to do that song. Like Cheetah Rivera did it in the revival with Antonio Banderas. Like Cheetah Rivera hasn't sang high notes since she was like 30. But like, I don't know if that's true or not, but
I don't know. I can't. This is a movie-based podcast, not a musical one. So I don't. My knowledge is not as high in that department.
But Judi Dench has like extensive stage training. Like she was one of the original Sally Bowles in Cabaret too. Like I don't know if you know that or not.
I don't know that.
Like, yeah, Judi Dench. Her number was so fun and so good. Didn't really need to be a singer for that one. So that I was okay with that.
I do wish that they'd either let her sing in her Judi Dench accent or that she had been directed to speak with a French accent the whole time.
Yeah, she
That
kind of
bugged
like
me.
she chose different accents.
But this is part of the problem. It's like this. I feel like this is something again that comes down to like we got a director here who had a huge success with Chicago.
Yeah,
and now it seems like he's just banking on that to keep the show running and not really do anything. Like, sure, trust your actors if you're going to book this kind of talent in your movie. Trust them, but also if they're doing a weird character choice where like they're speaking with just her normal accent and then singing in French and talking about being Parisian,
then like
ask her to speak with a French accent.
Ask some questions.
Just ask a couple questions.
Direct her in a direction that makes sense.
Yes.
Can we talk about Nicole Kidman's accent for a second?
Let's talk about Nicole Kidman.
And like I'm fans of everybody in this movie, but like Nicole Kidman's accent, I was like, where's Claudia from? Like it was so at first, I've never really been clear on this, and this is just because I'm not really an expert in 9, the story, at all. But like for some reason, I was just like, I thought Claudia was like a foreign actress, like she was from a different market who came to Italy.
She was. Yeah. She was originally, so Claudia, the character she's based on is Claudia Nardi.
Okay.
Who sounds Italian.
Right.
It could be not Italian, but in this she's Claudia Jensen, who is very overtly, she sounds Scandinavian of some kind.
What accent?
I don't know.
Was this?
I don't know.
It was like, you know how you're like when you go see like a high school or college production of like some show about Eastern Europeans and they're just like, just do a Russian accent.
Everybody talk like this.
Everybody talk like this.
Everybody talk like this. It's okay.
I was just like, okay.
We do Fiddler on the Roof. We all talk like this.
I was like, you spent so much money on Nicole Kidman. Like, figure out something more specific. Like,
And if she only shows up for, she's mostly not talking in this movie.
No.
She's getting paid an awful lot to not talk.
Yeah.
She's getting really high billing.
Yeah.
In this movie.
I think on the poster, like her face was like pretty big too.
She's on the poster. The poster goes from left to right. Penelope Cruz, Kate Hudson, who, yeah, you were right. I double checked it. It was like Bride Wars, my best friend's girl, or my best friend's wedding, and You, Me, and Dupree.
Oh, You, Me,
Those
and
were like her big 3 films leading up to this.
Yeah.
And then you have Marion Cotillard and then Nicole Kidman. And Nicole Kidman is literally practically in the opening shot of the movie.
Yeah.
She shows up a lot in Guido's imagination, musical Numberland.
Yep.
And
He's
she's
like obsessed with her. And then when we finally see them together, I'm just like,
Is he?
are you obsessed or are you just like colleagues that work together and
Yeah.
maybe wanted to bone at
Sometimes
one
you
point?
kiss every once in a while.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's a lot of weird choices. And it's such a shame, too, because then you have you've got Penelope Cruz, who won, or at least was nominated for an Oscar for this portrayal, for this role.
I can't, like, Penelope Cruz, Penelope Cruz is such a gifted actress that, like, I believe that she was nominated for her acting in this part because Penelope Cruz's character in 9 is fucking insane.
Yes.
Like, there's this one point in 9, the film, where Carla takes, she gets pissed off that Guido's wife came to the hotel and she's like, why is your wife at the hotel? So she leaves. He makes her wait outside, which is like, they make a big deal about it. It's very insulting.
I'm going to walk home.
Yeah, she walks home and then she's like hugging the stone wall,
Yep.
like as if she can't hold her balance, even though she had nothing to drink.
She can't handle it.
She can't handle it. We later find out that she has taken some pills. She hasn't taken enough pills to die.
Yeah,
but
she only took like 5 or 6.
She took 5 or 6, which is enough to get them to call Guido to come see her. And I was just like, like y'all both, like, I know like she's a victim here, but y'all are both like fucking crazy.
Yes.
This is very toxic behavior from
And
both
her
parties.
poor supportive husband shows up.
Oh God.
Needs to go into Al-Anon. Needs to go deal with do some 12-step work to get him and his wife's relationship perhaps a little bit more
Oh my
sorted
God.
out.
But they're not going to. He's just going to accept it. He's like, she's my wife. And Guido's like, I'm sorry.
I'm
And then
sorry
he just
I
leaves.
fucked your wife a couple times. Perhaps a dozen times.
And then bye. Oh, okay, bye. And then he just leaves.
Then we have
like-
Marion Cotillard, who fresh off an Oscar win
Yes.
for La Vie en Rose.
Yeah.
I
As far as non-singers go, I think she did the most admirable job.
yes.
I still would have loved to see a singer in that part.
It would have been so much better.
It would have been better.
You could have gotten for all the time in the world. They had actresses auditioning for this role. They had
Oh, you have the list. Oh, I'm so excited to hear this.
Well, here's the other interesting thing. So they haven't brought up a lot of people who were originally auditioning for Louisa. Katie Holmes and Demi Moore auditioned for roles. Neither were cast. They don't say what roles they were auditioning for. We have Catherine Zeta-Jones was originally supposed to be Claudia Jensen.
There's your mistake right there.
Huge mistake. We also had originally, we haven't even gotten to him yet, but Javier Bardem was originally supposed to be Guido. Javier Bardem dropped out due to exhaustion.
He probably can't sing. He probably couldn't sing. Guido has to sing. Guido has to have an incredible range. He has to be able to sing really low notes, and he also has to be able to sing really high notes.
Yes. Antonio Banderas auditioned and was not cast.
He played it in the
He
2002.
played in the revival.
And I don't.
We got to talk about Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis
doing
the most.
His role from Phantom Thread.
Okay, yeah.
Like a pre-version of that. Like there's very little difference I noticed in the way he's playing Guido versus the way he played Reynolds Woodcock.
It's just slightly bigger.
Slightly bigger.
Yeah.
'Cause he's singing.
And it's very big, honestly, for Daniel Day-Lewis, who's like, his whole thing is like very like internal, like very method. Like it's like very like, he's like the king of close-ups because he's just so good at doing very little.
Right.
But doing a lot with that.
Yes.
But this is the first time I ever saw him like outwardly emote, and he's trying really hard sometimes. He's just like, there's so many brooding shots where he's just like,
There's so much of him angrily driving cars. I've never seen angrier car driving in my life in an
Lots of
awards bait
this.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
Fists.
just like flinging his head back, just
Yeah.
very like I'm hungover and I'm
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah, it was an interesting turn from Daniel Day-Lewis. And he did, again, he's like, that was another thing I wrote for him a lot. Like he gets to the notes, but they're not like, once you get up there, you're just like, oh God, they should have like, was Neo Norbert Butts like that guy? I can never say his name right, but he's like, whenever they need like a Broadway man who can do like both film and stage, they always go to Norbert Leo Butts.
Norbert Leo, what has he done? It sounds familiar.
He
I'm
was
gonna
the
look him
original
up.
Jamie in the last 5 years. He did the Michael Caine part in Catch Me If You Can when they turned that into a musical. He was recently in what's it called?
Let's see. He was in
Fosse Verdon.
He was in. He's done a lot of TV. Yeah, he was on Fosse Verdon. He was in Madam's Secretary. He was in The Girl from Plainville.
Yeah.
Film wise, he's been in. I mean, right around this time, he could have been working. He'd only done Dan in Real Life.
I feel like
Could have been doing it.
He probably wasn't a big enough like screen star at that point, but like I feel like he was still like kind of young and spry enough to do this part on film. Then.
He could, and he'd won a Tony Award.
Mm-hmm.
He'd been nominated previously, and then he won for best leading in a musical for Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Right. And I feel like anyone who's paying money to go see this movie in theaters goes to see it for the women, right? The women are
Right.
like they're better to look at. They have the songs. They like
Yeah, there's a reason why you don't have Daniel Day-Lewis doing a musical number in a Speedo
In a
several
Speedo.
times.
so like I feel like you could have carried the movie on the women's star power alone, and then like you could have used all of your stunt casting would have been taken care of, and then you could cast at least for your main character, like the person that carries you through this entire journey. You could have used somebody that had
It's
like vocal experience.
It's very strange to think how much they had banked on this movie being a huge success.
Huge hit.
It won. It was nominated for a handful of awards, but it was a huge critical and commercial flop. It made
Yeah.
$54 million on an $80 million budget.
Oh my God.
The Rotten Tomatoes reviews were pretty abysmal. It's got a
Yeah.
39% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yep.
And this is, there's some good reviews here. There's some really bad reviews here, obviously. They're really trying to pull from the good stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of top critics on Rotten Tomatoes who like this movie. But
Yeah,
there's
they
also,
want people to remember this movie through rose-colored lenses. Yeah.
Look at this. Listen to this from Dennis Schwartz of Oz's World Movie Reviews.
Oh my God.
Feels as if this filmmaker doesn't know a Fellini from a Linguini.
Oh my God.
That's better written than any of the lines in this movie. Daniel Day-Lewis shows a previously unseen penchant for song and dance. Cruise, though, is the real star turn with a very sexy number, but in parts it's flat, and some more melodrama or plot would not have gone amiss.
That's like Cruz's part was like it was good, like, but the finesse of Cruz's performance was not that musical number. I'm sorry, it was
No.
bad.
It was
Like,
pretty bad. But if you're watching that number, you're not really paying attention to Penelope Cruz's singing abilities.
Yeah, you're not.
You're watching her.
it's
That's
a very
it.
sexy number.
It's sexy.
I just there's a note in here that I just saw. There is and it's we're gonna pivot for just a second. It's just too bizarre that I have to bring it up.
Please.
There is this weird like Foley choice that they make like through the movie. For some reason, Guido goes to a religious spa, right? And I'm not.
To go hang out with the card, and it
Is it
was
the
a cardinal.
cardinal?
It wasn't
Yeah.
the Pope. It was a cardinal who
Yeah.
loves Claudia Jensen. So he like fakes a signed headshot by her and gives it to him.
Yes, so that he gets to go and like sit in this bathtub with the cardinal. So they do this like, and it's like beneath the Vatican or it's in a cave somewhere. But there's this Foley choice when Guido gets into the water and it sounds like a wet fart. like,
That's right.
like-
I remember that. I
It's-
was like, did the cardinal fart?
it's like right as he gets in the water and like it's written in capital letters. And I just remember like, is this a wet fart? Like, and I'm like, how did nobody notice this? Like going through anyway, that's
There's-
not my. That's probably one of the things that I really like about the movie.
I was going to
honestly.
say, is there anything you can be kind rewind about? Is the wet fart the only thing that we can be kind to this movie about?
There are a couple of things I can be kind about. The wet fart is like it's like kind of like a chaotic like for me. So I don't know if that's necessarily like a universal kind.
I will say I do appreciate that we got at least. It was nice to see the shades of what Daniel Day-Lewis was working with in Phantom Thread here, because then you get to see a much better version of that character.
Yeah.
He's trying, but also, I mean, the costumes are good. There's a lot of really cool cinematography. You got a good cinematographer.
The cinematographer was great. I was just like, thank God the cinematography is banging here.
But at the end of the day, you've got other critics who are like Keith Ulrich of Time Out.
Oh my God.
Who says this is a migraine-inducing maelstrom.
Yes.
You've got Alyssa Wilkinson of Paste Magazine who says, a painfully formulaic message, trite dialogue, and a strangely episodic narrative structure that renders the whole thing exhausting.
I think that it's generous to say that the structure is even episodic.
Yeah.
I just the lack of structure overall in this movie is just like, oh God, like fuck. What I'm trying to think of the most chaotic movie I've ever seen.
I mean, Cats, at least, if we're
could-
talking movie musicals.
I could tell you the plot of Cats.
Yes, we know what's happening in Cats.
Yes.
In this is it's the musical version of no story, just vibes.
Yes.
There's just nothing to latch on to narratively, really.
No. And if they had kept the little boy, because the little boy in the stage production is used as a narrative device, right?
Yes.
It's like, hey, this is all the weird, shitty things that happened to me when I was younger, and this is why I am the way I am today. Whereas we don't really get that. I guess, like, your average viewer is not going to make the connection that Guido had sex with a prostitute when he was 12, and maybe that might have, like, stunted his emotional and sexual growth.
Right.
I don't think that like Bob from Farmington, Missouri is gonna think that when he sees this movie.
No.
Like
if he sees this movie.
if he sees this
Because also,
movie.
I don't know how much Bob from Farmington, Missouri wants to go see
Nine.
a musical that's about an Italian film director who made art European films.
But look, there's so many sexy women on the poster
There are a lot of
that they're
sexy-
trying to get those people
That's why they had to get
in.
those people in. Yeah, the trailers with all the sexy dancing.
And then you get to the theater and it's not what you were sold. You were sold a bill of goods that doesn't exist.
right.
Like,
But you brought your 12-year-old son to this movie.
I
And
know.
he had some feelings stirred.
Yeah.
And then the cycle continues.
exactly.
Just as this movie predicted it might.
oh God.
Jasper, what if people hate this movie, as you and I do? What should they watch instead? What do you recommend for people who hate 9?
For people who hate
For
Nine,
for those 7 hate 9, what do you? I had to say it. It
Let's
was right
see.
there. I had to. Sorry. Anyway, if you hate 9, what should you watch
If
instead?
you hate 9, if you hate 9 and you haven't seen Chicago yet, I would go back and watch that because everyone in it can sing. The device that they use to get the songs in the movie makes sense because everyone that gets a song is featured enough in the movie that you're like, oh yeah, I'm definitely invested in this person's inner journey. Spectacle, everything that should have happened in 9 happened in Chicago.
Okay.
And usually people that hate the film Chicago just hate the story of Chicago, period. Or just like watch. Here's what I fucking love. I love that we're recording professional stage productions and we're releasing them so that people who can't afford a $100 ticket to the theater can still see these shows.
Yeah.
Like they're about to do Heathers. Like they're going to record the West End.
nice.
Yeah, they're going to record the West End production of Heathers and they're going to release that like it's a movie. Like watch that instead.
We could have more versions. I mean, I have watched a number of times the scenes from the version of Company that was filmed.
Oh, that was good.
From
Yeah.
years ago. But they did that on PBS all the time.
Yeah.
Great performances.
Yeah.
And it fell off, and it seems like it's coming back.
It's coming back and it's coming back. And it's like, I love PBS and I would love a world where everybody would flock to PBS to see these musicals, but that's not a world that we live in.
No, it's not.
Like we need Disney Plus to release Hamilton.
Yeah.
Or I forgot what they're doing it now. It's something other than Heathers. But like that's how you get quality, well-produced theater to the masses.
Yeah.
Is you get it through a large platform from like a brand like Disney that has so much recognition and public trust already in it that they're like, oh yeah, I'll watch this.
Yeah.
It's fucking Disney. Like,
right, exactly.
you know?
Because then
And-
you get to see you get to see the performance, right? There's always
Exactly.
going to be something lost a little bit in translation when you
Yeah.
take a production out on tour.
Yeah.
Like my parents, they just saw the Oklahoma revival.
Oh,
and
wow.
they hated it.
Yeah.
They walked out at
Did they see the
intermission.
touring show, or
they
did
saw the
they-
touring show.
Yep.
And I think that if they had seen the real version on Broadway,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps things might have been a little bit different, because I know it's designed and set up in the theater in a certain way.
Yeah.
Compared to, all right, you're seeing it like Bass Hall in Fort Worth, which is
Oh my
a
God.
theater-ass theater,
Yeah.
designed in a certain way where it's not going to be conducive to seeing the way that the creative team behind
Yeah.
that show really wanted you to see it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even 9, the original musical stuff got lost in translation
Stuff
in the
got
touring
lost
production.
in translation. 9 is, I don't even think it would work if you filmed the stage musical, because I've never seen a staging that's like interesting enough to be filmed.
Can't do it.
It's very like concerty.
Yeah.
Like it's people standing up and singing. Sometimes they're in a very nice room, but like it's not like, it's not like Hamilton where there's like shifting stage pieces. I really think they should also make a professional recording of Les Mis too. These concert versions are super cute, but like that set was fun. Like,
I've never seen Les Mis.
oh,
I'm not as far
Yeah.
down the musical theater rabbit hole as I once
Yeah.
thought I was.
Oh, it's fine.
You're putting me to shame.
No, it's totally cool.
All my high school version of me is really pissed off at the current version of me for not keeping up to date.
Oh, no
with
worries. No worries
musical
at
theater.
all. I'll finish off with like one, I guess, musical theater film that wasn't a stage production. I really did enjoy Producers. The second time I went back and watched it, like I saw
The musical version, not
Yeah.
the original.
so I love the musical. I also love the original version.
Oh, right.
And then I didn't love the movie when I first saw it when it came out, but then I rewatched it about a year ago and I was like, this is great. Like,
I gotta check it out.
It's-
I just listened to Mel Brooks' autobiography. It's it
Yeah.
talks obviously a lot about both versions of the Producers in there.
it is, they didn't make any creative, crazy choices with the cinematography, which like at first I was pissed off about, but in retrospect, I was just like, you know what? Like, this is great. This is
Yeah.
exactly a real life version of what I would have seen on stage. Singing, dance, it's all good.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Well, I have got to check all of those out because now I feel like I have stuff now. I got a context for where this movie has gone so horribly wrong.
Great.
That you've provided me. So thank you for that.
Of
Jasper.
course. Thank you, Jay.
Where can the listeners find you and your work online if they want to check out your stuff?
Sure. You can find me across all platforms. My handle is at Hey Jasper Lewis, all one word. You can find me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. That's where I primarily live.
Cool. Definitely go check out Jasper's stuff. She puts out a lot of great sketches, a lot of great work.
Oh my God, you're so kind. Thank
on
you.
her platforms. You can find me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram, at Blockbusting Pod for anything blockbusting related. If you like the show, consider subscribing on Patreon. You get access to bonus content and to the full film library of JFlix at $5 a month. It's not that much. You get a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, that's a deal.
I just put LA Confidential on there because I just did that episode on it with Leah Rudick, and I
What?
loved it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I got it on there now.
I have to listen to that because I love LA Confidential.
Oh,
so
man.
I'm curious about these takes. Oh my
Leah
God.
did not, and you should listen to that episode.
I absolutely will.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Jasper.
Of course. Thank you.
Happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
This has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.